In this video, I'm going to be giving y'all the top 3 best builds in NBA 2K22 Next Gen. But first, if you're looking for somebody to grind your badges, hit up Elite Badge Grinding. They're super fast and 100% legit. Click their links in the description and let them know Hambo sent you. Also, if you guys could do me a quick favor, scroll down, smash that big red subscribe button, as well as like the video, that'd be greatly appreciated. So starting things off with this very first build, we're gonna go ahead and be a point guard. Everything on the screen doesn't matter besides that. Next, for the body settings, we're gonna drop our height down to 5'9". To some of you guys, this makes perfect sense since this is the meta in the game as of right now, since you're just so fast and you have such high three-pointer and playmaking. For the weight, you're going to want to drop this down to 147 pounds. This way, as you guys can see, you have max speed and acceleration. And then for the wingspan, you're going to want to drop this down to 6 foot so you can have 99 mid-range and three-pointer. On to the attributes screen. For finishing, we're actually going to skip this for now and just go straight to shooting. First, for your three-pointer, of course, you're going to need this at a 99. And then for your mid-range, I would recommend putting this at an 89. In total, you will have 37 shooting badges, which is a ton. And then I'd recommend going back up to finishing and putting this up to a 63. Scrolling down to playmaking, you're going to want to max out both pass accuracy and ball handling. And then for speed with ball, you're going to want to basically max this out. You're going to want this at a 96. And then finally, scrolling to defense/rebounding, I would recommend putting up your perimeter defense to basically max at an 81. And then your steal at basically max as well at a 97. This build won't have like superb defense or anything since it is very short. And then next, for the physicals, you're going to want to max out speed, acceleration, and stamina. You can't quite max out stamina. You have to put this at a 97. And then finally, with the last few ratings, I would recommend throwing them on free throw. In total, this build will have 100 badges. It's able to three-point hunt and dribble extremely well since it has such good playmaking and shooting. And additionally, it's the fastest build in the entire game. Overall, it is lacking in some categories. However, you're just so fast and you have such good shooting, it's impossible to guard. If you do want free throw on this build, I would recommend dropping down your close shot to 59 and then scrolling down to speed and drop this down to a 98. If you throw all of those ratings onto free throw, you can have a 96 free throw. This is a very good build for Pro-Am and Rec Center. So if you are considering playing one of those 2 game modes, definitely equip free throw. And then next for the takeovers. Now, after a little bit of thought, I decided to go with the first takeover as limitless range. And then the secondary takeover, I also decided to go with limitless range. As you guys can see, it says doubling the takeover will give you twice the impact. If you do get double takeover with this build, you're going to be able to shoot from anywhere. And then as you guys can see, I've built a playmaking shot creator. Overall, I do think this is a very accurate name. Moving on to the second build of this video. For this build, we are going to be a small forward. For our body settings, we're going to drop our height down to 1 to 6'6". Overall, I think being 6'6" is just the best all around. And I do want this build to be doing everything in the game. Also, being 6'6" means that you're able to get quick chain, which is a very good badge in this year's 2K. Also, for this build, you could go with different positions if you want to. Like 100%, this build can run both point guard and shooting guard. For the weight, I would recommend dropping this down to 180 pounds. This is minimum, which means you're going to be as quick as possible. And then next, for the wingspan, I would recommend putting this at 7'2". Onto the finishing attributes, I would recommend putting up your driving dunks to a 92. This will allow you to get elite contact dunks. And then for the driving layup, I'd recommend putting this up 1 rating to 73 so you can have an extra finishing badge. And then finally, for close shot, bump this up to a 59, and in total, you will have 19 finishing badges. And then next, for shooting, I would recommend maxing out your three-pointer and then bumping up your mid-range to a 78. In total, you will have 24 shooting badges. And then finally, for playmaking, you're going to want to basically max out both ball handling and speed with ball. You're actually going to want your ball handling at an 83 and your speed with ball also at an 83. There's overall just no reason to go any higher than 83 since you don't get another badge. And then for pass accuracy, I would recommend bumping this up to a 77. In total, you'll have 26 playmaking badges. Scrolling down to defensive / rebounding, you're going to want to basically max out perimeter. You're going to want this at a 94. And then for steal, you're also going to want to basically max this out. You're going to want this at a 97. And then finally for block, go ahead and max this thing out at a 78. In total, you will have 22 defensive / rebounding badges. On the defensive side of things, this build will be 100% able to hold its own. Scrolling down to your physicals, you're going to want to max out your speed and your acceleration, bump up your vertical to an 80 to get elite contact dunks, and then finally throw the rest of your ratings onto stamina to have a 97 stamina. You do have one rating, you just have to throw it on free throw, so just go ahead and do that. In total, this build has 91 badges. That's not a ton or anything, but is really well-rounded and can do everything in this game at an elite level. As always, the variation with free throw is pretty much going to be dropping down your block to a 70 and then also dropping down your stamina to a 94. In total, you'll have an 85 free throw. Moving on to the takeovers. For the first takeover, I would recommend going with limitless range. I do think this is the best takeover in the game. And then for takeover number 2, I would recommend going with finishing moves to just really lock in on scoring. And as you guys can see, I built a two-way slasher. Honestly, the build system in this game are so broken because defense and finishing is literally my two worst categories in this game. But moving on to the third and final build. Moving on to the third and final build. For this build, we are going to be a center. Moving on to the body settings. For the height, you're going to want to drop this down to minimum. If you guys have been playing 2K for a while, you guys 100% know that shorter builds are the meta since you're just way faster. If you guys do want a 7-foot center build, be sure to check out the video in the card up above where I do show you guys one. For the weight, I would recommend dropping this down to 217. And then finally, for the wingspan, you're going to want this at 7 foot 1 inches. Starting things off with the driving dunk, I'd recommend putting this up to an 80. This way you can have silver posterizer. And then next for your driving layup, I'd recommend bumping this up to a 73. Scrolling down to your standing dunk, I'd recommend putting this at an 88. And then if you put your close shot up to a 67, you can have 22 finishing badges. Scrolling down to shooting, you're going to want to max out your three-pointer and basically max out your mid-range at an 87. 100% on next gen, you need to be able to shoot unless you're a pure post scorer. This build is able to play defense and finish almost as good as some of the pure inside centers, but it can also shoot the lights out of the building. This is just very important to keep your defenders honest. Moving on to playmaking, you're going to want your ball handle at a 75. You will be able to get the LeBron James step back animation. And then next for the speed of the ball, you're going to want this at a 66 and your pass accuracy at an 88. In total, you'll have 23 playmaking badges. Going down to defensive / rebounding, to start things off, you're going to want to bump up your interior defense to a 76. For perimeter, you're going to want this at a 78. For steal, you're going to want to max this out at a 76 as well. And then for block, you're going to want this at an 88. For O-rebound, you're going to want this at an 84. And then finally, if you have your defensive rebound at an 82, you can have 30 defensive / rebounding badges. The biggest downside of this build is that you only get rebound chaser on silver. However, I don't think there's a very big difference between silver and gold. Hall of Fame rebound chaser definitely is very good, but silver is more than good enough. Scrolling down to your physicals, you're going to want to max out speed and acceleration. For your strength, you're going to want this at a 51. For vertical, you're going to want this all the way down at a 60. And then finally, throw all your ratings onto stamina. You can have a 98 stamina. You do have one rating, you just have to throw it on shooting, so just go ahead and do that. In total, this build has 103 badges, which is honestly insane. In my opinion, this is one of the best popper builds in the entire game. And even though you are kind of tall, you can definitely still dribble on this build. You're not going to be able to be like the point guard or anything, but it's definitely very fun to be able to dribble on such a tall build. If you do want free throw on this build, I'd recommend dropping down your driving lay to a 68. And then for your stamina, I'd recommend dropping this down to an 89. If you throw all of those ratings onto free throw, you can have an 86 free throw. This is more than good enough to be able to drain free throws consistently. For the first takeover, there's honestly a ton of good takeovers, but I think I'm gonna go with See the Future. For takeover number 2, you could go with a sharpshooting one if you want to, but honestly, I'm gonna go with Stuffed Box. And as you guys can see, I built a two-way stretch glass cleaner. This is, in my opinion, actually a pretty accurate name. But with that being said, that is going to wrap it up for the video. If you found the video helpful or enjoyed it, scroll down, drop me a like, and also subscribe to the channel so you can notify next time I'm dropping some more gems on y'all. Click one of the videos on the screen right now, such as the best 7-foot center build. Go follow me on Twitter, and I'm out. Peace.